Thank you. First things first, thank you very much to our sponsors tonight. We're learning tonight, dedicating our learning to Ili Nishmat, Joe Kestenbaum, and thank Joanne and Mark, Danielle, Holden, and Ryan Kestenbaum, sponsoring in memory of our beloved member Joseph Kestenbaum, Yosef David Ben Shmuel, and Shem B'Shav and Aliyah.
Amazing.
Also want to thank Gail and David Aronin, sponsoring a commemorative the Yurt site of Sanford Aronin, Sender Leib, Ben Yaakov, and Shem B'Shav and Aliyah. Let's learn a little bit together. By the way, isn't he? Is this a Cohen? Forgot that part. Sender Leib Ben Yaakov HaKohen, Nisham Shav and Aliyah. Doesn't say a Cohen over there on the sign. I had to take a picture of the sign because you get a little older, couldn't cover an eye and see it. Okay, we're in Daf Chav Ched Mud Aleph. I hope everyone is well rested and ready to work. We're on the cusp of an important sugya in Shas. And the sugya is entitled Mitzvot Lav Leihanot Nitnu. The mitzvot were not given for our enjoyment or for our pleasure. We have to understand what that means, what it does not mean. People often jump to conclusions and they think erroneously that it means Judaism is meant to be about being in the doldrums, or you're not allowed to enjoy yourself or be happy to be a Jew. None of those things is the case. Well, you're going to delve into it. We'll actually understand what it is. We will not finish the sugya tonight. My goal is to learn the Gemara, Rashi, the Ritva, if there's time to see at least the beginning of an incredible essay or shir, rather, this transcript not reviewed by Mori Rav Aaron Lichtenstein, but on this exact subject, analyzing the ins and the outs of Mitzvot Lav Leihanot Nitnu, and you get a flavor for what Mori Rav Lichtenstein was about in terms of the analysis and understanding things from different perspective. Can we get underway with the basics of the Gemara first? You already have a question? Judah, please.
It's a dilemma because we say if do it Hashem b'simcha.
B'diuk. So how can you say if do it Hashem b'simcha? Mitzvot Lav Leihanot Nitnu? It's a good question. So stay tuned. That's the point. Right, that's the point. That's the point, is to try to understand the sugya. What's happening? Why does this concept come up? What does it mean? What's its applicability? How do you reconcile it with the reality that I hope exactly if to the Shem Simcha, I'm happy to be Jewish. So no, it's not for your enjoyment. Don't enjoy anything. The
Zohar says that all of these terrible things
tachat
Asher lo
v'tuv levav meirov gol. You have everything. So there's a dilemma.
Specifically for enjoyment doesn't mean we can't enjoy it.
Oh, so that maybe that's the beginning of the answer. But we have to understand the ins and outs. More, please.
Just in terms of what's to come, is part of the thought of this is defining what simcha actually is.
What's simcha? What's hana? We have the definition of terms.
We think of simcha like when it says restaurant Shabbos, so that means I should play racquetball.
Right.
But that.
Well, no, wrong. You shouldn't play. It shouldn't. But you could think that.
No, but right with a.
You need a definition.
With a modern view of.
Biduk. What's the definition of these terms and how do they apply? So let's delve in. The headquarters, Gemara, Rosh Hashanah Daf Chav Ched Amud Aleph. We've arrived. Obviously, headquarters doesn't mean it's the only station in the story. It's the headquarters, but there's obviously stays in different places. So let's get into it. The Gemara is, we actually already saw the beginning of this at the end of last year. The beginning of the line, the first word is Babor, but that's from the old Gemara. After the acronym, the Rosh Tevet Kamashmon, Amar Rav Yehuda. B'shofar sha'ol lo yitka, v'im taka yatsa. B'shofar sha'shlamim lo yitka, v'im taka lo yatsa. It's very strange. If you have a shofar, a horn, came off an animal that's an ola, don't use it as a shofar. But if you did, and you blew shofar, yotze the mitzvah. But if the exact same scenario happened with a shlamim, somehow you're not yotze. The Gemara asks, my time out, why should there be a distinction between the ola and the shlamim? Answers the Gemara, ola bat me'ilahi, kevan demalaba, nafkala lechulin. There's a concept that we have, in fact, an entire Masech in Seder Kodshim, me'ila. Me'ila in English is trespass. It means that you, and the definition is important to keep in mind, that you inadvertently made use of something that belonged to the realm of Hekdesh. Means it was already sanctified for a sacred purpose.
It was in Daf Yomi.
Of course it was. Yes. It always has to be, because wherever we're up to, it must be close to the Hashgacha Pratis. So the idea is that we are not allowed to use anything that's consecrated But if we use something by accident that was consecrated as part of the realm of Hekdesh, it loses its status. We pay a penalty, whatever its value was, plus 1/5, and we have to give a korban, asham. If you do it deliberately, it doesn't matter. You cannot, it won't work. In other words, it's not going to happen. If you look at Rashi, a Tosfot rather, we shouldn't have skipped Rashi, but Tosfot just has such a lucid thing at the top of the page. Hold your finger in the Gemara here. Gemara Rashi, Tosfot, top of the page. B'shova sha'ola yitka klomar b'mezid. Don't do it b'mezid. V'imtaka klomar b'shogeg. If you did it by accident, yatsa. The b'shogeg mal v'nafik l'chulin. If you did it by accident, you engaged in me'ila. It goes out v'nafik l'chulin, becomes desacralized, essentially, becomes profane. Aval b'mezid, ein me'ila, lo nafik l'chulin. But if you did it on purpose, there's no me'ila, it doesn't go out to chulin. Yeah? Got it? So it's just important to see. Uchshemachalik ben ola shlamim, when it made the chiluk between the ola and the shlamim, as it's doing right now in the Gemara, hayacholachalek ba'ola gufa ben mezid l'shogeg. It could have said, ola, if you do it b'shogeg, you had me'ila, even though you're not allowed to do it l'chadchila, but by accident you use that shofar. By accident, okay, you're yotze, but if you did it on purpose, you're not yotze, being cholik between mezid and shogeg. Hastam cholik b'shogeg gufei. Instead, it made the distinction within the realm of shogeg, ola b'shogeg or shlamim b'shogeg. But Tosfot just wants you to know, it could have said, the whole thing with regard to ola, could have said as follows: you're not allowed to use the shofar, shel ola. You're not allowed to use it for tikiyat shofar. If you did by accident, you are yotze b'diavad. If you did it on purpose, you're not yotze. However, Tosfot points out the Gemara, for whatever reasons we will not start to analyze now because we have to move to the core of the matter, decided instead to give you the distinction between an ola by accident or a shlamim by accident. If you accidentally use the property consecrated as an ola offering, i.e. the horn was detached before the ola was actually offered al gabe mizbeach, so it had the status, that by accident, you're yotze b'diavad. And now it mentions the shlamim. Shlamim, delavine me'ila ninhu, isuruhu derachiv behu. The shlamim are not subject to me'ila. Shlamim, unlike an ola offering, shlamim is not subject to me'ila. Now, why is that the case? For various reasons. We'll say simply as did last time, because even after the giving of the korban to the al gabe mizbeach, the zrikat hadam and the aktar of the emurim and the pedarim, whatever is left that's going to be eaten is going to be eaten by the owners. It doesn't lose its status of kedusha even after it was offered al gabe hamizbeach. It retains it, as opposed to the ola offering where the skins and the horns, after the offering is offered, they belong to the kohanim to do whatever they want with it. Make a coat out of it, make a belt out of it. They could use the horn for musical instruments or for a shofar. That's up to them. But the point is, the process for the ola was interrupted in a shogeg situation. And in the case of the shlamim, at any time, it's not subject to me'ila. And therefore, because it's not subject to me'ila, you're not going to, the isser remains intact. Lo nafki l'chulin. That's the Gemara's supposition. The Gemara is about to attack this idea, but this is the first suggestion of the Gemara, which it's about to dismantle. Wait, one second. Larry, it's on first, please.
I would think it would be the other way around. Meaning that because the shlamim belongs to the person who brought the korban, he should be able to use the horn
For whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Okay, except for the problem that whatever's left from the meat still retains its kedusha, its kodshim kalim, which means that once it was offered, the pieces of meat that are not offered on the mizbeach, you can eat, but only with certain rules, such as only in Yerushalayim. It retains its kedusha. Shlamim definitionally does not have an idea of me'ila, that it can be deconsecrated through your action. Your action will always be considered a trespass.
Wait, I thought. Now I'm confused.
Okay, wait. Larry was confused first.
Yeah.
then Art gets to be confused, and then you.
Now I'm on team Larry here, it feels like it should be the other way around.
No, my question was not.
Let's see Rashi
was-
in a minute.
Was simply, if the shlomim is not subject to me'ilah, then what happens to it? It got used, now what?
It has to still be eaten. The korban, the kachim kalim have to be eaten by the bailam,
I gotta understand.
but it's not subject to me'ilah because it's not the property of hekdesh.
It never was the property.
Well, when you consecrate it to give it, yes, but once it was given, now it's on you. Let's look at Rashi. You'll see it inside. We'll see how that. I probably didn't explain it well. Let's look at Rashi. Let's look inside. Rashi shal ola. The case is Vital Shemechayim. Rashi, what's the landmark? Ha'omdim is the first word on the line. Ha'omdim babor yatsu. It's from the last shir.
If you, Lakute Rashi, it's like 4 lines down from that.
Yeah, depending on your version of Rashi. That's why I didn't say that part, because every Gemara has a different layout with the Likute and the Gilead and Ashas. It's in the narrow lines, probably about 12, 13, 15 lines down, something like that. The first word on line is Ha'omdim babor yatsu, and the Dibur Matchel Shel Ola. No. Keep looking. I know. I'm trying to find how to tell you where it is. Look at the narrow lines of Rashi on 28a, right before the barbecue. No, well, there's several on my Gemara, so I can't tell you which one. I don't want to tell you the wrong one.
It says to the right of it, the El Chav Zayin, Amud Bet.
Oh, I see. Kol
Where it says Tukela Tochabor is in the Gemara there.
Yes.
The Gemara says Tukela Tochabor, right? Le'el Chav Zayin. It says Tukela Tochabor is in the
Correct.
Gemara. Look, follow your eye to the right. Shal Ola, Dibur Matchel.
Yeah.
You not see it?
No, but that's.
No, it's not okay. If Art Broth can't see it, we're not going ahead. Everyone's got to find it. Look in the Gemara. The first words on the line of the Gemara is Hatokela Tochabor. There's either a little superscript
Le'el
Gimel
Chav Zayin.
in mine, or it says Le'el Chav Zayin. That's where you're going to find it in the Gemara. Did you find it, Larry?
Here.
Oh.
Look over here.
See if the El Chav Zayin Amud Bet. So right over here, Shalola. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So look, let's look in Rashi. Shel Ola, Rashi. V'tol shemechayim. Di'ila achas rika ein me'ila. Lo ba'ora v'lo b'karneha. Shehakol lakohanim. This must be a case where the horn was detached while the animal was still alive. It was consecrated to be a korban ola, but it was already detached from the animal. Because if it was already after the zrika hadam, there's no me'ila, not in the skin, the hide, and not in the horns. Everything belongs to the kohana, as it says in the Gemara Menachot, on Daf Pei Gimel.
Wait, can you repeat again? What was detached?
The horn.
So the animal was alive and then the horn was detached.
It just fell off,
Okay.
or it was cut off. I don't know, whatever it is, but it was talsha. They removed it.
Got it. Okay.
This is the ola. I'm just telling you the case.
Yeah.
Just telling you what it is. It's in Gemara Menachot. Uvismachim ne'amar lo yiyeh ba'ola v'ne'amar lo yiyeh ba'asham. Ma'asham atzmotav mutarin. Af ola atzmoteha mutarin. Just mentions to you that in Gemara Zvachim it says that just as it says lo yiyeh with regard to an ola, and it says with an asham lo yiyeh, it will belong to him. Both times the same pasuk. Just as the asham, korban asham, the bones are permitted, so too the ola, the bones are permitted. When we say the bones, we mean because the bones are not part of the meat that's being consecrated. And when we say the what's it called? When we say the bones, we mean also the horn, the inedible parts, the atzamot, and the karen is like that. It's basically a bone. Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
it retains its kedusha for the whole thing. That's why it's subject to the Elah. Because the Ola stays with the Kohanim, so it stays. And if you use it for something else, that would be a form of hektish.
That will be a form of me'ila. If you use it for something else, it will lose that
So
content, that
Ola would be
status.
So now when we contrast that with the shlamim, I know we'll get to Rashi, so now.
Yeah, we got now we're conscious of the shlamim. Shlamim going to be a bit different.
Yep.
Shlomim la b'nei me'ila ninu. Why isn't shlomim subject to me'ila? The ein me'ila b'kachim kalim. What's kachim kalim? Right? Kachim kalim is that fact that part is going to go on the mizbeach and part is going to be eaten by you, the bailim. Right? Ella be'imurim ula'achar zrika k'shehuvru l'chela gavoa. That can only happen with the parts once we have the animals after you do the zrika, and there's the parts that are going to go up onto the mizbeach. There could be me'ila on those things because they're going on the mizbeach, but other parts we're not going on the mizbeach because you're going to eat them.
So
The point is that the only time that we have an issue with the potential for me'ila is in the zone between consecration and it being offered as a korban.
question, just.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ola I get, the whole thing retains its kedusha, which would include the horns.
Until the time of the animal being sacrificed, at which point the horns automatically lose their status and the Kohanim can do whatever they want with them. And the hides as well.
In case of the shlamim.
There's still
since-
meat left over.
Since some of it is eaten by the owner,
Mm-hmm.
how do you decide whether the horn belongs to the part that goes to as the kedusha, or the part that's the part of my dinner?
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. The part with the dinner is called the kachim kalim. Once all of that is consumed, then the parts that are left over are permissible. But until those parts are consumed,
How do you decide which pile the horn goes in?
because it was never offered, the horn is not offered in the mizbeach.
Okay.
If it was still attached, maybe it would be. I don't know. But it's not attached. That was the point. It got detached while the animal's still alive. So what's its status? And the Gemara is about to challenge us and say, like, wait a second, this doesn't really add up. We didn't get there yet because you halted me in the middle. Wait, Art, you still had a question? Back to Larry. Go ahead.
Just so I can clarify. Ula has a mechanism that if someone unintentionally trespassed and took something that he should not have taken, it's a trespass, but life goes on. But in the case of shlamim, there is no opportunity for a trespass.
Basically. That's the point. Now, why is that? I could tell you a whole theory about why that is, about I'm not going to go into it. It's just going to take too long and won't get any farther in the Gemara. It doesn't accept, that's the reality. Ironically, the shlamim, even though you're going to get to eat from it, actually has less of it's less vulnerable to me'ila. And the point is, according to Rav Yehuda, you can't use this for your purposes for shofar. And if you did, even if it was by accident, you used something that belonged to hekdesh, and therefore you're not yotzei, because you're not allowed to just take stuff and use it if it doesn't belong to you. When it belongs to hekdesh. Pardon?
We said the Amurim certainly.
It's not the Amurim, not the Amurim. We're talking here about the part that's actually going to be that's going to be eaten by you. So before it was actually offered on the mizbeach, before the animal parts go up, and before you actually ate from it, those parts are not subject to me'ila. They're locked in. And if you did try to use it, there's no halach of me'ila that would, paradoxically, even though me'ila means you trespassed and you have to pay a penalty, but still you acquired it. You ruined its status by touching it, by using it in your way. Okay, you pay the penalty and then it's yours. You take it home. You break it, you bought it. Yeah? But in the world of shlamim, that's not an option. Why? For reasons having to do with the issue of the whole inyan of me'ila. There's no me'ila in the kachim kalim, as we say that because it's of a lesser level of kedusha. The idea that you've overstepped, you used it, you ran in, you grabbed it, you decided it's for you, is not going to be something that's going to allow you to say you fulfill the mitzvah with it.
You're dealing with a shlum in this.
Yeah.
That strikes me, that's why I'm having to change.
That's counterintuitive.
It's not it. it would have struck me as being a much higher standard.
With,
Because
with an Ola.
No, with the shlumming, because if you violated it, there is no opportunity to make it right. Whereas with an Ola, you violated the shogeg,
Right.
you could still use it.
Okay. But you're still clearing between the Ola and the Shlamim. I'm just telling you in this case with the Shlamim, you can't fulfill a mitzvah with it.
You would think.
And with the Ola, ironically, you can fulfill a
Right.
mitzvah with it,
Which
even though, yeah.
would mean that the shlumming has a much higher standard.
Yeah. Yeah. The point is that in the shlamim, you're not going to be makayim the mitzvah of tkiyat shofar if you use a shofar that came off an animal that was of a korban shlam.
Now, Yotze.
Although,
Not yotze.
Yeah.
although, so I was on Team Larry until about a minute ago on this same thing, but I just flipped myself by
Change your
thinking
team colors.
that if you're gonna use something for a mitzvah, the fact that it's already in a state of kedusha completely might make it better than a shlamim, which has part kedusha and part not kedusha. Meaning, and so therefore, if I was gonna make an exception, I haven't looked ahead, but the Gemara's reasoning could flow that way, that in the case of an Ola, where the whole thing goes to Kohanim, and you have.
But whatever's going to the Kohanim is going to the Kohanim. I mean, the
Yeah.
whole thing's actually going up on the Mizbeach. Whatever can be offered is offered. They're not eating from the korban Ola.
Still, blowing shofar is a mitzvah, and that has a sense of kedusha, so you've got kedusha.
Kedusha to kedusha. Interesting.
Where if you have a shlamim.
Because on a lower level. Oh,
Lower
interesting.
level, so you say, well, you know what, I can't make it something for a lower level to do something that has a high level of kedusha. I can't do that.
Okay, let's see what the attack is.
Okay.
And you'll see what the attack is. The attack is the matkifla right after it. Back in the Gemara, matkifla Rava, emat mal. When does a trespass happen? Lebater detaka. After you finish blowing, the act of meila, whether you touched it with your fingers, is that you blew into it. You used the object for something. Kikataka. But when you do blow the shofar, bisurataka. But at the moment that you blew the shofar, you did it be'isr. It shouldn't work. It belongs to Hekdesh. How did it get out of being Hekdesh? Because you used it. So you might have thought the act of using it is what deconsecrates it. You'd be right. But it's when you are doing the act itself, having finished doing the act, that showed that you trespassed. So the attack is the fact that you did this act of blowing shofar, you did it be'isr.
What if someone just grabbed it but didn't blow?
That's not the me'ila yet. Me'ila is that you used it.
Yes.
So then the Gemara says, wait, so if that's true, Ella, Amar Rava, so Rava says, okay, echad zeh, lo yatsa. That means, therefore, whether it was the shofar sha'ola or the shofar shel shlamim, never mind, you're not going to be yotze. In either case, because when you did the tekiah on the shofar, it was not yet permitted to you to use it. So it doesn't work. Even the case of Me'ila, the Gemara here says, Rava says, it's sort of modified what he said, that you're not going to be Yotze because it still belonged to the realm of Hekdesh at the time that you first used it. Maybe the second guy who blew into it, he'd be Yotze, but not the first guy. We're asking about the first guy. But Hadar Amar, now here's the key, but then he went back on himself and he said, I changed my mind. Echad zeh ve'echad zeh yatsa. Both in the case of the Ola b'shogeg and in the case of Shlamim b'shogeg, you are Yotze. You know why? Mitzvot lav Leihanot Nitnu. Me'ila is that you used it for your personal use. This is kind of a little bit on the long lines of what Mark was saying, not exactly, but in the family what he was saying, right? Mitzvot lav Leihanot Nitnu. And because mitzvot were not given for your pleasure, for your enjoyment, when you took this object, you didn't trespass against Hekdesh, you used it for a consecrated person, which is a mitzvah fulfillment. Look how Rashi does with this. To go up with Rashi, lo Leihanot Nitnu. Rashi, lo Leihanot Nitnu. The first words on the line in Rashi are lo Leihanot Nitnu. Li'Yisrael, liyot kiyumam lahem hana, el all al tzavarehem nitnu. The mitzvah were not given for our benefit to the Jewish people. They were not given for our pleasure. That their fulfillment should be enjoyable per se, but rather as a yoke on our neck were they given. And therefore, when we do the mitzvah, we are actually engaged in an activity which is not me'ila, because me'ila would be for personal use. And it doesn't matter now if there would or wouldn't be me'ila. even using this thing that was already consecrated like a voa, I did it for the sake of a mitzvah. So that's okay. Even though there's an isser hana on these objects, it would be me'ila for the ola, not me'ila, just usser for the shlamim. Doesn't matter because mitzvot lav leihanot nitnu. That's the Gemara concludes. It's going to give some examples, but this is the example of mitzvot lav leihanot nitnu. The mitzvah we're knocking for enjoyment. Therefore, even though there's an isser hana on this object because it belongs to hekdesh, don't worry, you didn't use it for yourself because the mitzvot are not for the sake of your pleasure. They're to serve Hashem, and that's what you did. Please.
Did you ever have a mitzvah bala avera? You could say, I stole this guy's sukkah. I didn't get any benefit from it. I just, it's.
So Sukka was not the best example. Lulav.
Lulav,
Yeah. So Taka, it's a Shaila. And indeed, that's why, we'll see soon, you have this is why it's a case that is an overlap between Masechet Rosh Hashanah and Masechet Sukkah, a mitzvah lav leihanot nitnu. In fact, mitzvah avera. In fact, we won't come to it tonight, but we're gonna have exactly that case is gonna start coming up further along. We're going to have to deal with it. We reckon with that. Well, what about mitzvah b'avera? You could always say, well, I stole, but it was for the sake of a mitzvah. We said back, for those who were with us, Masechet Sukkah, that is anathema. That's a mitzvah b'avera. You can't do that. You're not Luvagazel. You're not Yotzei. So now you're Yotzei? So what's the difference? You stole from a person. That's no good. But now you borrowed, appropriated from the Gizbar, from the temple treasury. Beseder, because mitzvah b'avera. So we have to understand it. We'll go into it. Yeah.
We all predicated on the beginning in the Reisha that it's done b'shogeg. Correct?
Yeah.
How can you blow a horn b'shogeg? You have to.
Okay, no. The shogeg is you didn't. You're right. Shogeg means you didn't realize that it was part of a korban. It's not that you blew by accident. You didn't realize. Hey, I blew a shofar. Shogeg doesn't mean an accident. It means a mistaken understanding about your circumstance, about an object or a time. A person who breaks Shabbos b'shogeg does not mean I walked into a room and I flipped on a light and oh no, that's less. That's a slip up, but it doesn't reach the level of shogeg. Shogeg is I'm turning this light because today is Tuesday. That's b'shogeg. Or I'm turning on this light because even though I know it's Shabbos, you're allowed to turn on lights on Shabbos. Those two statements, that's b'shogeg. Right? It's not davkanik. Davkanik would be, I know it's Shabbos, and I know today is Shabbos, and I know you're not allowed to do it to do this on Shabbos, and I did it anyway. That's b'mezid. But if you just walk in the room and you flip the switch, that's mitasek. You weren't paying attention. You weren't focused. But that's not shogeg. This is a case of shogeg. Shogeg means I found a shofar on a table. I was in the vicinity of Beit Mikdash. It's Rosh Hashanah. Wow. Oh, what luck. I got a shofar here. Mina Shemayim. There's no luck. It's all Ishkacha Pratis. Baruch atah Hashem. Do you know you just blew shofar on a shofar that belongs to a carbon? Uh-oh. It was a mistake about my circumstance. It was a mistake about what I understood about this object. It's not that I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. That's something else. That's mitasek. It's basically onus. I'm not saying it's recommended. I'm just saying it's not on the same level of infraction as doing something b'shogeg, which is a mistaken impression about what's happening here, as opposed to mezid, which is intentional and wanton and a violation which is horrific because it wasn't an error. So the Gemara here says, look, mitzvah lav leihanot nitnu. And again, we have to square it away at some point with, okay, what about mitzvah b'avera? But mitzvah leihanot nitnu, the basic premise is the mitzvah we're not given for enjoyment. And therefore, if you perform a mitzvah and you had an isser hana'ah on this object or on the person who's going to help you to do this mitzvah, that is of no concern because mitzvot lav leihanot nitnu. It's not about your personal gain. You're doing it because you're serving Hashem. Let's see the examples. To understand a concept, it's still murky, very murky. Please.
So just understand, so I can understand Shalom just a bit better. So Rava's point is that because these two shofars, in two cases, they're all in Shlamim, when they get used, they're not being, whatever state they have before, whether they have the Kedusha or not, it's irrelevant.
No, they have the Kedusha, according to both.
Okay, so they have the Kedusha, so that it doesn't transform to Me'ila at all because
Me'ila is not in the picture, and even if you and even the idea that I use something that's not even subject to Me'ila, right, so it's not even being transformed into something that is permitted, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because even though it's Isser, in other words, to say a sentence, according to the Maskana,
Okay.
even something with an Isser Hana, you could use for a Dvar Mitzvah because Mitzvot Lav Leihanot Nitnu.
So if.
It's premise.
If I was able to get a hold of Rava, and I said he took the shofar that was used for shlamim or banola, either one, and he went to play in the local band at the cafe with the shofar. That, there, if it was used, it would be totally,
I'll be over on Isser Hana.
No.
But because it was used for.
A mitzvah
a
purpose.
mitzvah, right, then it doesn't ever cross that line into you, personal use.
Right.
Okay, I got it.
That is exactly the point. Now let's give some examples. Keep going. So the Gemara gives the example next, right? Amar Rav Yehuda, b'shofar shel avodah zara lo yitka. If you have a shofar that is a shofar of avodah zara, right? They used it for avodah zara, so there's an Isser Hana on that. Lo yitka, don't use it for obvious reasons. It's disgusting and terrible, etc. V'im taka, but if you did blow shofar from it, striking but true, yatsa. Why? Because mitzvot lav leihanot nitnu. Is it disgusting? It's disgusting. Should you do it a priori? You cannot. But what if you did do it? Don't do it. But if you did, you're still going to be yotze. Next case. B'shofar she'ir hanidachat lo yitka. V'im taka lo yatsa. My timer. Ir hanidachat hitute mechtat shiure. A shofar has to be at least the length that it's going to fit in your hand and stick out a little bit. It's like one tefach, etc. But we have a halacha about ir hanidachat. Ir hanidachat is the city, the wanton city that's slated for destruction. All of the objects in it are considered as if they already don't exist, even though they haven't been destroyed yet, as if they don't exist. And therefore, and we had this in Masachet Sukka as well,
Yes.
lulav shel ir hanidachat didn't work because it doesn't have a shear of 3 tefachim plus the 1 tefach to 4 tefachim in total. Kedei l'na'nei abo. Shofar, it doesn't exist. I heard a sound. What are you talking about? But on a halachic level, this object of the shofar from ir hanidachat, kitute mechtat shiurei, it's like it doesn't exist. You don't have an object of a shofar from a halachic vantage point. But in a real way, I do. I don't care about that. I care about the halachic world when I'm learning halacha. And therefore, and why is avodah zara different? Look what it was used for. Disgusting. It was, I don't know, the horn on an idol or something. You took it and bought it, and you used it. L'chatchila, you're not allowed to use it. This is the Gemara talking. But b'diavad, if you did use it, mitzvot lav leihanot nitnu. Yeah, I did mention that as an aside. We try to remind the Baalei Tekiah and the shul to make sure they know the provenance of the shofar they're using, because we don't really want to be yotze with a shofar that has to do with avodah zara. And there's another twist and turn here as well, but we'll see if we get into it. But that's the ir hanidachat. Now a third case, we'll see Rashi in a minute. Amarava, hamuder hana mechavero mutter litkolot kiyashal mitzvah. If you made a neder, and the neder is Reuven and Shimon get into a fight, and Shimon says to Reuven, I make a neder right now. Reuven, I'm not getting a hana from you. And it turns out Reuven's the Baal Tekiah in the shul. So now Shimon comes to shul Yom Tov morning. Well, that was a mistake because I can't get any benefit from what Reuven does. But the Gemara here says that if Reuven blows shofar and Shimon hears it, Shimon can be yotze. What about the Isser Hana he made a vow? I won't get any benefit from you. Mitzvot lav leihanot nitnu. He didn't get benefit from him. He performed a mitzvah. Yeah, but he was the linchpin. This is a different case. We have to understand why. But that's the idea. Now, finally, hamuder hana mi shofar mutar l'tkobat kiyashal mitzvah. Yeah? If you say on this shofar object, I will not derive benefit from the shofar. Now, what do you probably mean? You probably mean I won't hear sounds from it. No, you must have meant music. You must have meant you're not going to plug the bottom of it and fill it up with whatever it is, liquid wine. But if someone blew shofar from that shofar, even though you made a vow, it's okay. Why? Kiyashal mitzvah, and that is mitzvah level. And if I'm a Rava, hamuder hana mechavero. Let's say Reuven, Shimon said to Reuven, I'm not getting hana from it. Reuven was really Reuven a Kohen, and then Reuven's going to sprinkle the mechatat on him. Maze alav mechatat b'modeh geshamim, avalo b'modeh chama. He can sprinkle the ashes and water mixture in the days that is rainy in the winter time, but not in the summer. Why in the winter, not in the summer? In the winter, it's the rainy season in Israel, yeah? So when it's rainy and it's cold, to have sprinkling of liquid on you, that's not so exciting. But in the summer, you get some benefit from it because it is cooling of your body. But I thought we just said Mitzvot Leihanot Nitnu. So how could you say, so this one doesn't work? The season matters, so we have to understand that inside. We didn't get there yet. Next, Hamuder Hanami Ma'ayan, Tovel bo Tvilos Shal Mitzvah B'Yimorek Shamim, Avalo B'Yimorek Chama. Period. End of Sugya. A person who said, I will not derive benefit from this Ma'ayan. Why would you do that? I have no idea, but you said that. There's a spring over here. I made a vow. I won't get any benefit from the spring right in front of me. And then you have to go to be toivel in this Ma'ayan, which is the mikvah, essentially. So if it's a rainy season, it's okay. And if it's the summer season, it's not okay. What? Somehow the season matters because you're going to derive some kind of benefit from the fact that it's cooling, but I did it for the sake of the mitzvah. So what's happening here? So all different cases, and all of each of these, of course, is not being mentioned for your health or for your enjoyment or pleasure, but for each one, that was tongue in cheek, each one is a different expression of what is going on with Mitzvot Lav Leihanot Nitnu. Each one is a different expression of it. The last two obviously very much related because it's seasonal. Other ones have to do with the object in question, and others have to do with the person who is causing the mitzvah to happen. And they all seem to be under this rubric, this murky idea, Mitzvot Lav Leihanot Nitnu. Journey with me into Rashi. We're up to B'Shofar Shel Avodah Zarah. Rashi says, Sheshimshu bo le'avodah zarah. V'nesar b'hana, and it became asr b'hana, ki detanu tzachar avodah zarah. Abeid to abdun et kol ha'mekomot. V'kelim shenishtamshu b'hen le'avodah zarah katu medaber. Destroy all the places means the vessels that were used for avodah zarah. And yet, if you had that object in your hand, you blew the shofar, Yotzei. How could that be? That's what it says. V'im taka yatzat, the mitzvot lav hana ninu. It's not a point of pleasure. Ki tute machet shiurei, from the Urein Dachet, the halasreifakai, u'chasarav dami. Since it is standing, about to be burned, it is as if it's already burned. V'shofar by shir. A shofar needs a shir. I said earlier, kadesh yachzenu biyado, v'yir lekanu lekan. Remember I said, you have to hold it in your hand, and you see a little piece of the shofar sticking out on either side. You got to put your mouth on it, and a little bit sticking out. It can be very, very small. Mutar litkoabo, you're allowed to blow shofar in it. Time at the kula mishum mitzvot lav leihanot nitnu. He keeps repeating it again and again. Chavero mazel alav b'modig shamim she'en kan el hanat kiyum hamitzvah umitzvah lo nitnu leihanot. Getting the flavor. Right? You got a hanat aguf. That is what we're seeing in Rashi. We're going to open now the Ritva. You don't have the Ritva. You will in a minute. I have a lot of copies, so it should be enough for everybody. Have a copy of the Ritva. Comes the Ritva. Oh, I'm 5 minutes to the end. You want to go in there? Is that okay? Is it okay? Are you starting right now? I don't know. Somebody messed up the time. You know what? Maybe, you know what? Debbie, you guys start in here. It's okay. We'll do the, I don't want to offend them. No. Do you have a place there? You sure? Okay, apologies. It's on me because I moved it from last night to tonight because of the graduation. I mean no disrespect. Apologies. Look at the Gemara, just number 1, page 1. It's all we're going to have time for tonight. The Ritva, Gemara Sukka. You know why it's Rava here and Rava in our Gemara and Rosh Hashanah? Took shofar shel avodah zarah, lo shel avodah zarah. Look at the Ritva. Perush. V'afil kodem bittel. Now, when it's an object that was used in the avodah zarah, if the avodah zarah was owned by a non-Jew, there could be an act of bittel, of nullification, by the non-Jew of this object of avodah zarah, and then it's wanted to be used. If the object of avodah zarah is owned by a Jew, it has a status of avodah zarah which cannot have bittel on it. It's nasar la'olam. So here, perush v'afilu kodem bittel. De'ilu la'achar bittel afilu chatchila nami. Even after bittul, even lechatchila, you could take this shofar. So the case we're talking about here, says the Ritva, is it's before bittul. Someone grabbed this off of the idol. The kaven to shari lahedjot lomois lamitzvah. But if you had already made the bittul happen on it, or the non-Jew rather, was mevatel, this avodah zarah, this object, and he sold it to you, said, I negate idolatry, the whole thing is ridiculous and stupid, and this object I nullify from its status having been used as an object of worship, and I'd like to sell it to you, and you buy it, you can use it lechatchila for a dvar mitzvah. That's what he's saying right here. V'afal gav The Reish Lakish Mebayele Hatam Masechet Avodah Zarah, even though Reish Lakish had a problem with this Masechet Avodah Zarah, Rava Pshitale. Rava explained it away. He explained it. He had his answer, as was clarified. We follow Rava, i.e., Mitzvot Lav Leihanot Nitnu. V'hacha kodem bittul. This case is even before bittul. Now listen to this. V'taima the yatsa mishum de Mitzvot Lav Leihanot Nitnu kidei ita v'kamaduchte, as we have in several places. LaRava, it's Rava Shita. See 342 in the tiny little numbers here, script. Look in the footnote, 342. We have Eruvin Lamed Aleph Mid Aleph and Rosh Hashanah Chavchet Amud Aleph. That's the other places, yeah. The Afal Gav. Now here, this is the Ritva's big chiddush. Why I wanted to get here tonight. And Baruch Shehiganu. Okay. The Afal Gav de mithani be'asiyat mitzvot. Shemakabel schar b'olam hazeh v'olam haba. What do you mean? This mitzvot lav leihanot nitnu. You know what hana you get from doing a mitzvah? You know what benefit you get? Points. You get schar in this world and the next world. The Ritva says, even though it's true, lo chashiv iser b'isur hana. When is it considered a violation of Isser Hana? When you derive benefit from the object of Isser itself. Aval kol she'ein ha'ana migufo, anytime that the pleasure, the benefit accrues to you, not from the object itself, ela shegorein lo hana v'revach mimakom acher, but rather that it causes benefit or some kind of accrual somewhere else from some other source, eino hana min ha'isser. That's not really the hana from the Isser. When we refer to an Isser hana, the Ritva's Shita is, and that he thinks that's what the Gemara means, and that's what Mitzvot Lav Leihanot Nitnu. It means you don't derive benefit from the object of the Isser itself. But when it's talking about the schar you'll get from it, the schar that comes later, that is a benefit. It's not a direct benefit. It's not an object of benefit. It's what's the word? It's an intangible benefit. But it's still a benefit, but it's intangible. He's clarifying those, according to Ritva, mitzvot lav leihanot nitnu means the mitzvah are not given for your personal benefit of a physical nature from the object itself. But if it's some other benefit that'll accrue to you, that's okay. That's not a violation of the Isra. No, Chedech Shamru, benoder hana mi ma'ayan, shitovel b'motay gishamim, she'enu nana b'guf hamayim. When you go in the mikvah or the ma'ayan that you said, I'm not going to get benefit from it, and you go in and it's whatever it is, it's 48 degrees outside in Yerushalayim, and you go dunk in a mikvah, you're not very happy to do it because the water, certainly in antiquity, is even colder. So you're going into that, you have no hana from the mayim. All you have is, I became tahor. It was a mitzvah. You had to go in the mikvah. You had a mitzvah to go in the mikvah for that purpose. Isn't there a benefit from going in the mikvah? Yeah, it became tahor. Even though that's true, even though now you're permitted to do other things, top of column shin, this left-hand column, that does have no moment. You have this also elsewhere. The Rava brings this up. The Gemara in Yevamot. Let's say a sandal of avodah zarah was used for chalitza. But he says if the chalitza was done with a shoe that was on an idol, they took off the idol and used it for chalitza, the chalitza is still kosher. How come? The mitzvot lav leihanot nitnu. I v'afagav de mervacha tuva b'hai chalitza. Even though she gains a lot from this chalitza, lo chashiva hana be'isser. V'ha berir nala beduchta achrina, as is explained in other places, i.e. in these other Gemaras. Source 345 tells you, look at Gemara Rosh Hashanah, Chavchet Amarav, mitzvot lav leihanot nitnu. The Ritva here is clarified for us. And by the way, that's the seasonal issue. How come in the summertime you're going in the same mikvah? That's no good. Because whether you like it or not, it's 85 degrees outside. You just went in a cold mikvah. It doesn't matter what you think. Already objectively, the average person wants to go in the cold mikvah in the hot summer sun. That's hana from the goof of the Isser hana. That you can't have. But when the hana is even when you go in the winter, you're getting hana, in quotation marks. What's the hana? Now I can go in the base of mikdash because I no longer am impure. Now I can eat kachim if you're a truma, if I'm a kohen, because I'm no longer impure. That's not a hana yeshira. That's hana mimakom acher. And schar for mitzvah, olam hazeh, olam haba, it's also considered mimakom acher. Adkan for tonight. Let's go. Mincha in 4 minutes, so we'll be on time. Okay, next week we'll continue with the Ritva. You can give me back the sheets or keep them as you wish. And next week, God willing, we will continue with the Ritva. Hopefully on Monday night, I'll tell you the exact time. by keeping you in suspense a little longer, and I'll figure